Hi, I'm Max. The Great Gatsby by Francis Scott Fitzgerald. Chapter 1. The Carraways have been a respected family for 3 generations in the Midwestern city where we live. My father runs a hardware business that has been in the family since 1851. I graduated from the Yale University in 1915 and then fought in World War I. After that, I decided to go to New York to work in the finance business. It was 1922. I rented a small, ugly house on Long Island. It was on one of a pair of large egg-shaped pieces of land that faced Long Island Sound. My house was at the end of West Egg, the less fashionable of the two eggs, and the only 50 meters from the sea. It was between two huge houses that were rented for $15,000 a year. The one on my right was especially grand and had 40 acres of garden. A gentleman called Gatsby lived there. The story of the summer really begins on the evening I went to have dinner with the Bunchers. Daisy was my second cousin, and I would know Tom at the university. He was an athletic type and had played in the football team at Yale. His family was extremely rich. The couple had spent a year in France and then had drifted here and there, always mixing with rich people. This was a permanent move. Daisy said to me on the telephone, but I didn't believe her. Tom wasn't the kind of person to stay in one place too long, for very long.
Anyway, I drove to East Egg to see two people that I didn't really know very well. Their houses were grander than I imagined. A red and white mansion with a lawn that stretched all the way down to a beach. Tom had changed since I last saw him. He looked hard and arrogant now. The body under his riding clothes was muscular and powerful. It was a body that could hurt people, I thought. We talked for a while on the porch, and then we went inside. Two young women were sitting on a couch. I didn't recognize the younger one, but Stacy got up and came over to greet me. She held my hand and looked into my face. "I'm so happy to see you," she said. She told me that the other girl's surname was Baker, and that she was staying with them. Daisy's face was sad and lovely, with bright eyes and a passionate mouth. "You must see the baby," she said. "I would like to." "She's asleep. She's 3 years old." "What do you do, Nick?" asked Tom. "I'm in finance." "Which bank?" I told him. "Never heard of it," he remarked. "You will," I answered, "if you stayed in the East." "Oh, I will stay in the East," she said, looking at Stacy. "I would be a fool to live anywhere else."
At this point, Miss Baker said, "Absolutely!" It was the first word she had said since I came into the room. I looked at her. She was very slim and she stood very straight. Her gray eyes looked out of a pale, charming, discontented face. I thought that I had seen her somewhere before. You live in Western Eggs, don't you?" she said. "I know somebody there." "Really? I don't know anybody." "You must know Gatsby." "Gatsby?" demanded Daisy. "Who's Gatsby?" Before I could reply that he was my neighbor, dinner was announced and we moved onto the porch. During dinner, Daisy and Miss Baker talked in a way that was as cool as their summer dress. You make me feel uncivilized, Daisy, I unconfessed later. Can't you talk about crops or something? Suddenly, the phone rang and the butler went to answer it. He returned a minute later and whispered something in Tom's ear. Tom frowned and without a word went inside. Daisy threw her napkin on the table and followed him into the house. I was about to speak when Miss Baker said, "Shh!" Quiet but passionate speech could be heard from the next room. Miss Baker leaned forward trying to hear. "This Mr. Gatsby you spoke about is my neighbor," I began. "Don't talk. I want to hear what happens." "Is something happening?" inquired Innocent.
"So you know," said Miss Baker surprisingly. "Tom's got a woman in New York." "Got a woman?" I repeat. It's really very insensitive of her to phone him at dinner time. Almost before I really understood what she was saying, Tom and Daisy were back at the table. After dinner, Miss Baker and Tom went into the library, and I followed Daisy onto the porch. We sat down side by side and talked for a while about her doctor. Then she said, "We don't know each other very well, Nick, even if we are cousins." "Well, I have had a very bad time. Everything's terrible. Everybody thinks so. I know. I have been everywhere and seen everything and done everything." Her eyes were shining with emotion. "I have become so sophisticated," she said and laughed, bitterly. I wasn't convinced by her words. She wasn't being sincere. I felt uneasy. We went to join Tom and Miss Baker in the library. But when we got there, Miss Baker stood up and said, 10 o'clock, time to go to bed. Jordan's playing in a golf tournament tomorrow," explained Daisy. "Oh, you're Jordan Baker," I said. I knew now why her face was familiar. "Good night," she said. "Wake me at 8, please." "Good night, Mr. Carraway. See you soon." "Of course we will," confirmed Daisy. "Come over often, Nick. I want you and Jordan to get to know each other."
After she had left, Tom said, "She's a nice girl." "Is she from New York?" I asked. "From Louis. We grew up here together," said Daisy. "Did you and Nick have a heart-to-heart talk on the porch?" Tom asked her suddenly. "Did we?" Daisy said. "I don't remember." "Don't believe everything you hear, Nick," he advised me. As I was leaving, Daisy said, "Oh, Nick, I forgot to ask you something important. We heard you were engaged to a girl out west." "I'm too poor to think about marriage," I replied. I knew that she was talking about there had been rumor of marriage, but this kind of gossip was one of the reasons I come to East. I was confused and a little disgusted as I drove away. I thought that Daisy should leave the house and take her baby with her, but she seemed to have no intention of doing that. As for Tom, I wasn't very surprised that he had a woman in New York.
It was a beautiful summer night, and I sat in my garden when I got her. Something in the distance moved, and I realized that I wasn't alone. My neighbor was in his garden too. He was standing with his arms stretching out towards the water. I looked out to see, but I could only see a small green light. Perhaps it was the end of the dark. When I looked back, Mr. Gatsby had vanished. and I was alone again in the dark.